Honestly speaking, when it comes to my stance on reviewing games, it's a bit of a toss-up. With good games, you can have some fun and are interesting to talk about. With bad games, while the experience can be hard in the moment, taking the time to really discuss and analyze why these games fail can be entertaining.
That's just a piece of crap.
But there's one type of game that I usually have a hard time to really discuss, and that's games that fail to live up to their potential. Whether it be because they're dropped, stuck in limbo, some corporate BS, or have some level of passion and work into them, but fail because of some elements, I find those to be the worst to discuss. And it's not because I have a lack of things to talk about. No, it's more to the fact I can see something that could have potential, but it pains me to berate it because it fell short.
Now, the real game begins.
So, Heartbound. I'm sure a lot of you have been seeing this game on your YouTube pages, but more importantly its creator Thor, aka piratesoftware, aka the son of that one guy from South Park's World of Warcraft episodes, at least if Thor is to be believed.
You could eat my whole ass.
This guy's been in the cultural zeitgeist with the whole stop killing games thing for at least about a few months now, and I figured today would be a good time to talk about his game for a little bit. Heartbound, a game that in nearly 7 years has been in early access.
Why?
I apparently had the damn thing in my Steam library for 6 of those years, which, funnily enough, that was during the time where MatPat had made Heartbound to be an Undertale mashup with clickbait without actually providing a link to the game, and even Toby Fox got in on the drama. Look, that was about 6 years ago. I had no idea that Pirate Software would jump to the deep end of the insanity pool. And while there's a lot to be said about Thor's choices with that stop killing games movement, like for fuck's sake, will you just shut up about it? Today we're just gonna look at his game, which, if there's one thing I will say as a positive before we start tearing into it, I do like the pixel art. Things look unique, every character has its own identity, everything seems lively, at least the obviously more important characters look good, and the locations, although have their own flaws, still have these vibrant designs to them. Okay, that's the positives out of the way, time to be mean.
You could eat my whole ass.
The story of this game is that you are Lore, a young man who has a thing for collecting socks, loves taking axes with him to bed, and has a dog named Baron who you may or may not have killed at the beginning of the game. The goal is to find Baron, or at least parts of him, by searching a few distinct worlds. Each of them has a surreal experience to them, such as being a workplace where your dad physically assaults you, or is a forest filled with animal people where you need to fix a watch, for some reason. It's not a bad basis, if not a little plain.
Boring.
Of course, when you start playing the game, you'll notice something. Lore only goes 1 speed. Now, I grew up with games where your player character has only 2 speeds, stop moving, and a brisk walk. And to be fair, Heartbound does have 3 speeds, stop moving, a brisk walk, and sometimes slowing you down against your will.
You know what's coming. The rage is coming.
The slowing down parts are when you tend to be bombarded with these ethereal voices that are basically berating Lore. They show up time to time, and I wouldn't complain about it if we had a run button in this game, and if there wasn't a lot of wasted space in the paths you take. There was about 1 or 2 times in the game where the game offered you a fast travel, in the Mushroom Cave in Animus is where I recall it, which was a good thing since I don't want to waste my time in anymore. The game's worlds are visually distinct with the charming pixel art, but the design feels bare bones, not helped by the fact that paths will appear and disappear, preventing the player from exploring the areas. It really comes off of, "This is where you need to go! You might as well grab me by the belt and toss me where you want me to go."
どけよ。
だる。お前がどけ。
This isn't to say you shouldn't go totally open world, but plenty of games don't hard cap people from backtracking or going forward. I can understand stopping your players from missing things and not getting ahead of the plot, but when you literally phase in and out the paths of the game, you really break any sort of immersion in fantasy here. It literally makes the strings of the developer show up, and what sucks more is you had a bit of a natural roadblock here in the game as well. After you get the deer girl and mountain lion girl hitched up, you need to pick up your watch, and there are these worker ants that prevent you from missing the watch that you need to get. Well, it comes out of nowhere, it's still a lot better than just snapping the paths out of existence. It comes off as hand-holding and afraid that the players will go off the beaten path. And to be fair, this is a demo, but since this demo is about 7 years old in early access and you still have to pay for this damn thing, I feel more than justified in my complaints. Next we come to the gameplay, and it's a choice.
If you think this has a happy ending,
You haven't been paying attention.
You can divide the game into two parts, puzzles and minigames. Instead of a traditional combat system, you're put into a minigame section against enemies. We're introduced this early on against a weird entity. You'll have to dodge claw attacks and lasers, use your axe to bounce back or destroy projectiles, and then use your axe to poke someone in the eye or throwing your axe at an eye as well. Hooray for assault! Every time you successfully pull off one of the necessary minigames, you'll reduce your enemy's health, fail, and lore will take the damage instead. It's not a bad idea per se, but I can see this thing being a big, huge time sink, and not like in the good way where you can become the king of cans. And that's because the battles go on a little bit too long. I'm not saying that these are hour-long slogs, but when you're actively demanding a person to pay attention to what's happening on the screen, it's best to get through these kinds of battles quickly, especially in the beginning, because we want to get to the actual meat of the story. The damage given to the opponent is a lot, and maybe if more damage was dished out, that would be fine. The other kinds of puzzles are mind-numbing, and oddly enough a little confusing at the beginning for some of them. One of the first puzzles you'll get is a pillar-pushing puzzle, where you have to maneuver the lights.
But wait! There's more!
It's not a bad puzzle, but you have to do it 3 times and it just kind of feels like it's, burning the midnight oil. Then, when you're in the corporate portion, you're kind of forced to work at a cafeteria, where you have to provide orders to the ghostly corporate slaves. And people wonder why I prefer to be a YouTube hobo. It's not anything difficult. You just read the board and give the guys sandwiches and cola based on what's said. It's more tedious than anything, but it really feels more of a chore than actual gameplay. That's probably the point since it's a corporate job and supposed to be soul-crushing, but this is a game. Hell, even presentation-wise, it could have done a lot better to at least be entertaining. This might be a little unfair to compare since it came out just a month ago, but Deltarune's serving minigame had a lot more entertainment value, a better gameplay loop, and presentation all the same. Not to mention the music was pretty good. As with the confusing portion, the game can be really vague at times. There's one point in Animus where I'm helping look for the river cryptid and I'm brought to a screen where there's a more detailed version of what I'm looking at, and I'm told to use the fishing rod to catch the river beast. Okay, let me firmly grasp it. Come on!
Firmly grasp it! Firmly grasp it!
As it turns out, you're supposed to grab the spider web that's on the other side of the riverbed, to use that to grab the fish skeleton, which will prompt the fly to go over to the frog, click on that frog and it'll eat the fly and jump to the shadowy water, and then you can use the fishing rod. Well, sorry! The game told me to use the fishing rod, not the spider web I somehow managed to grab with my psychic powers I just developed with this mole lady.
Who throws a shoe? Honestly.
These are issues, and obviously, if this was an early project that was just in the first year or two of early access, I wouldn't complain as hard, since these could be fixed. But again, 7 years. So I feel like if you're sitting on issues like these for so long, that's more than fair game for criticism. Still, these aren't the biggest issues I have with the game. The biggest issue is the narrative. I talked about the premise earlier, but what I find to be harder to swallow is the inner thoughts. Like at numerous points before you're given a choice in the dialogue, you're getting these inner thoughts that basically say, you shouldn't care about these characters. And it's like, shut up man, let me play the game I want to play. If I want to help the kooky deer lady hook up with the odd mountain lion girl, let me make that choice without being pressured beforehand. You can do it afterwards and make me question, why do I care? And I get why it's being done this way. It's being done to showcase that Lore has a bit of a nasty personality inside and has depressive thoughts that are seeping in. I get why it's being done. But does that make it a good choice to do for a game, basically telling your players that they shouldn't care about these NPCs before the choice is even made? If we look towards Undertale, which this game obviously takes inspiration from, you can easily tell that something like this, whether you choose to take the pacifist or genocidal route, you can make that choice to care or not about the characters. And while the game did remember what you did in the heat of the moment, it didn't stop you and go, you shouldn't care about this bonehead. Kill him every time you made that choice. And again, I understand why it's being done here. On a narrative level, it makes sense. But when it's implemented in a game, it becomes more annoying than anything since for one thing, it announces that a choice is about to be made, and two, it really gets repetitive about it. Plus, there were some times where it asked me to attack someone, and I'm like thinking, why are you asking me this? Why not do something like, say, give Lore an action command that allows him to swing his axe in the middle of the gameplay while you're controlling him? That way, if the player doesn't like like an NPC, or in the case of the armadillo fellow who attacked us earlier in this chapter, you can get revenge, and the player can make that choice without being given a prompt. The game aims to explore heavy themes like mental health, but Lore's thoughts rarely provide a clear insight into his feelings. Lore is presented as an innocent, curious kid, but his inner thoughts swing between being naive optimism and heavy existential musings, creating a total mismatch. For instance, his reflections on anxiety and animus feel jarring next to the game's playful humor or simplistic tasks. This inconsistency makes it hard for players to form a clear picture of Lore, reducing investment in his personal growth or quest to find Baron, especially when we're doing things like fixing a watch. And the fact that we spend more time reading than interacting with the world feels tedious. All in all, while yes, I am doing the YouTuber thing and trying my best to get engagement out of what's happening with Pirate Software and this game being blasted on YouTube, I don't want to say this game is nothing more than wasted potential. There was actual passion put into the pixel art of this game, and while I do have my issues with this game, I had to admit that the biggest misstep is that it feels like it was forgotten by its own creators.
It's hard to stay motivated when you're pulling in easy money streaming and riding the shorts algorithm. I get it.
Even more so when you consider this was a successful Kickstarter. Not on the levels of Undertale or anything, but it still reached its goal of $5,000 and pretty much quadrupled with 684 backers. Pirate Software, Thor. If by some chance you are listening to this or reacting to this video, you can ignore everything else I said up to this point, but hear me out. Finish this game. Even if it has issues, you owe it to your fans, you owe it to your backers, and you owe it to yourself and your partners who helped you make this game. Your last update was on August 9th, 2023, so stop complaining about stop killing games before you let your own game die. Otherwise,
You could eat my whole ass.
That's just a piece of crap.